Hey everybody. In response to one of the videos from the guy that we actually play with on this server, his name is Mags, just wanted to kind of go over, I guess, my kind of review of the Welcome Home server, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, which is a very, very short list, and of course some of the things that I'd like to see in the future from it, and hopefully, in the far, far future with everybody here. But one of the first things I'd like to kind of go over is just kind of the path that I've seen the server take since I started. So I've only been on the server, gosh, like maybe a month and a half, I believe. And pretty much ever since I logged in for the first time, I have been able to talk to the owner, ask questions, you know, to the point of annoyance, I think, in the beginning, because I really didn't understand the kind of, you know, premise of what was going on. I'd never heard of, like, you know, different tiers of monsters in Ultima Online. Ultima Online's always been kind of basic when it came down to what you were doing, you know, whenever you killed monsters and that kind of stuff. You know, you went into Death Star, sure, but there wasn't really like tier bosses and things like that in Death Star. There was just dragons, and of course at the end of it you got the shadow worms, things like that. But one of the things that I noticed here was obviously the tier systems, the tier gear, and a couple of different things that kind of made this set out a little bit more unique. And that was one of the things that Mags had kind of touched base on, was that when you first log in, it's overwhelming. The feeling, you know, the sense of being lost. I really didn't get that. Only because the baseline of Ultima Online is here. If you wanted just to throw on a katana and, you know, some of the, you know, beginner gear, whatever else it was, and go out there and hunt mongbats, you definitely could. The beginning isle at New Haven is phenomenally set up to where, you know, when you go out, you've got your entry level quests, you've got, you know, some dragons, you've got some corrupted ravens, you've got all kinds of stuff right there that you're able to kind of jump right in to doing, you know, just basic fighting, and of course leveling up, skilling up. And of course, if you go to the Moon Gate and you just explore a little bit through your options there, you'll see that there's training grounds, there's kingdoms, there's different things. I mean, exploring has always been huge on any MMO that you play. Unfortunately, exploring has kind of gone to the wayside on these nostalgic games because we've done it all. We've seen it all. 25 years of doing it. If you live in a town for 25 years, you know every alley to go down to, you know, get to your favorite local burger place the fastest, you know, and you know, where to go to skip traffic and everything else. So same thing here. One of the things that I've really liked is that the custom content side of things has really pushed players into going into dungeons that I don't really feel like they would normally go into. So of course, Death Star has always been a key location whenever you're playing. If you've played Ultima Online at all, you know exactly what it is. If you've never played Ultima Online, it is a dungeon that was the foreground for dragons, drakes, wyverns, things like that. So that was where you went kind of in game in the very beginning almost. If you could go there, it was awesome. If you were a tamer and you could get one of the dragons, man, you used to be able to walk through Britain with your head held high. You were the elite of the elite as you sat there at the bank in Britain and went AFK. But now whenever people log in, they know exactly where to go. They know exactly what to do. There's 1,800 guides on UO-CAH and UO guides and all kinds of things to show you the best route to get fencing up, the best route to get anatomy up, the best route to get taming up, herding. You know, there's everything. Even the most simplistic of skills like camping, there's literally a guide on where to go to get camping taken care of the fastest with the densest wood population. And so realistically, it's taken a lot of the I guess the new experience out of these nostalgic games that you get into. But one thing that keeps bringing us back is the baseline game itself, which Dungeon Master, which is the guy that runs the server, has done a phenomenal job in keeping the baseline game there while raising up certain levels of it to a new level of uniqueness without just stealing away what people came to the game to begin with. So a couple of those things that I really, really like is the 1200 points that you get instead of the basic 700. So if you've never played UO, you get 700 points that you can put into things. So think of, if you ever played RuneScape or anything like that, you get 100 points that you can put into a skill before you've mastered it out. Well, on this server, you get 1200. So you can either get 12 skills up to 100 or 10 skills up to 120. And that opens up a very broad spectrum of what you can do with your classes. Baseline UO, there was always at least a skill or two that you were having to give up in order to, you know, max out the char the way that you were really wanting to. Whether it be, you know, an animal, like right now, for example, I've got my animal lore and taming up to 115. And I've got, you know, the rest of this stuff going on here. But what I wouldn't be able to get normally is musicianship, discordance. I may not have been able to pump in, you know, evaluating intelligence. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have had to, you know, just use the baseline for my healing and my damage through Magery. So there's a lot of things that you can do to be able to really amplify your character and pump it up with those 1200 skills. Is it confusing at first? Well, honestly, I believe that, I mean, I guess it could be if you really never thought of being able to get more than the 700 skills. I have played on several servers where there was no cap. I've played on several servers where they had certain skills that just didn't count towards your 700, like just kind of ridiculous skills that everyone either A, for quality of life purposes needs, like hiding, or B, they just don't matter in most cases, like arms lore and, you know, maybe hurting or something like that. So I was kind of used to being able to have more than the 700 skills. So whenever I was able to see the 1200, it really pumped my interest way through the roof, because I knew exactly kind of what I wanted to create out of a character itself. So that really, really excited me when I saw that. And of course, being able to get the character up, you know, right now to where I've got it, knowing that I've still got a few more points to put into certain areas in order to maximize has been really exciting. I've really had a lot of fun. And I've liked the character so much, I honestly, truly doubt that I will be in a position to make a secondary character that I actually play on the regular. Like, I've got a couple other characters. I got a crafter. I've got a Dexter just because I was curious, because, you know, like Mags mentioned in their video, the power difference, you know, the balance difference. And of course, when you're looking at those two things, is there a huge curve that comes from playing a Dexter to playing, let's say, more of a caster tamer? And what I found is kind of like, I guess he was mentioning that, you know, I think it's Chronic's Axe is what he was talking about. That is just a super, extremely good axe. And someone said that they could kill things with it. There were, you know, high-end in-game things with just the axe and completely naked. In my opinion, that is not so much to do with the axe as it is to do with the skill set that people put on their characters. If you are a super Sampire with Bushido allowing you to parry with a two-hander and everything else, I really don't think that you're going to have that much issue killing things, just because you've got such more of an array of skills, plus the Sampire, plus you're going to have that axe itself, which has got a much higher base damage, which of course increases your health slurp to allow yourself to revitalize your health pool. There's going to be a lot more that created that character to be the way it is based off its skills, rather than just one super weapon. Now, and that being said, I don't think that the Chronic's Axe is an underpowered weapon by any means. It is extremely powerful. The base damage, I think, is either double or double and a half what you know the average weapon is going to be. But in the same sense, whenever you start an animal tamer on this server, you can literally, or at least you could, I know that they're making some changes right now, but you could walk outside of Luna for about 3 minutes, go up to the highest level tame, and use an instant pet bond taming scroll to have that pet at your disposal. So if you want to talk about being completely naked and still clearing content, you could easily do that as a tamer in the beginning with zero skill other than animal taming and animal lore. So whereas as a Dexter, you're starting off like I said before, I mean, you're out there killing Mombats, you're going to the training center, spending hours upon hours leveling up your different skills to be able to even go out and clear any content, much less rolling into the tier 2 content with just a pet. So I do think there needs to be a little bit of a power curve when it comes down to in-game Dexters versus in-game Animal Tamers and Mages. Animal Tamers and Mages are powerful the entire trip of their creation. From day one to day wherever you are, you're able to clear content with an Animal Tamer Mage. Whereas Dexters, that's not the case. You really have to build your character up from ground one. And at that point, you really have to put in a lot of time, effort, and of course, roll the dice luck on the RNG that you're going to get the weapons, the armor, and everything that you need to be able to go into those tier 2 and obviously tier 3 content with your character itself to be able to clear that stuff. You've got to have the 120 scrolls of tactics. You've got to be able to have the gear that pumps up your tactics to 150, 160, 180. You have to have the Chronix Axe. You have to have the other things to really be at the in-game level at that point. And at that point, I think it's fair that Dexters do more damage. 100% fair. I think it's fair that they should almost be indestructible when it comes down to, plate wearing and sitting in a champ spawn, letting things hit you and obviously doing, your AoE damage with your weapon and things like that. Because you worked really hard to get your character to that point. In the same sense, I don't think there should be a massive power difference between the two, because at that point you've got nobody wanting to play one class versus the other. But I definitely think that there ought to be, the juice has to be worth the squeeze at the end of the day. If the Dexters are going to be the exact same power as the Tamers, no one's playing a Dexter. It takes far more work and far more, everything to get a Dexter where it needs to be, rather than just rolling in as a Tamer Mage and going into, clear content. But, a couple of the things that I wanted to touch base on as well was the actual vision of the server itself. I've played on so many of these free shards that it really interests me whenever I got on this one, because I just immediately went into, instant messaging or whatever it's called on Discord. Or I just showed my age, didn't I? But I went into direct messaging, the Dungeon Master, and was just talking to him and asking him, a couple of questions that really interest me. And one of those questions was the first question I asked, and that is, how long is this server's longevity going to be up? Because there's nothing worse than a game like UO, in the sense that you have to pump a lot of time and effort into your character, building up your wealth, building up your home, building up your decorations, things like that everybody puts into the game, all to find out that, server life was going to be 3 months because the guy just got bored of running the server. And I've had it happen a couple of times. Overnight, you've had a server just kind of shut down, or you've had owners that completely change the direction of where things are going to go into more of a pay-to-win style, or whatever else it is. And it just really sucks to have that time investment gone. Because if there's one thing I think that Mag showed us in his video, was that this is not just a game like, you pop in Super Mario or something like that. To a lot of players, this is a nostalgic journey into a game that we all played growing up. Most of us at this point, we're not 18, 19 years old playing Ultima Online on the free shards on side of things. We're pushing 40. A lot of us are already deep into our careers or retired. We've got families, we've got kids, we've got a lot of outside distractions that allow us to spend less time on the game itself in most cases. So it's important, as a owner of the server, that you see that it's a huge responsibility, almost in a sense, because these players are really diving in to a nostalgic experience on something that you're providing. And so, in a sense, you have control over, how these, people are going to react and how they're going to spend their very hard-earned free time, in my opinion, on the server that you're running. So in the same sense, obviously, it's his server. He can do what he wants with it. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a cool thing to be able to know that you've got this many people that are so invested and so passionate about the game that I mean, I thought it was really cool to see Max make that video. You know, it just really shows the passion that he's got for the game itself and for the server that he's on. So we're seeing a lot more players move to the server, and I think that's important too, because the more players that are on, the more content that you have to have. Obviously 4 players rolling within different content is going to, you know, provide a different experience than 30 players rolling within 4 different kinds of content. So it's important to also have different content available for the players themselves to be able to do it without just stepping on each other's toes the entire time, or like lining up in a row for certain things that are on a, you know, 30-minute respawn timer or whatever it may be. But all in all, if I were to give this server a review of 1 to 10, I would give it a 9. There are a few things I would change, but honestly, there's nothing that I would change that would make this server, or anything that I would change that's going to prevent me from playing on the server at all. I've had a lot of fun on it. I will say that I think it is the best free shard I've ever played on, and the numerous reasons are, you know, just a couple of them, is the unique style of the actual game itself, that he's created with all the unique things that he's got in it, you know, all the stuff that he does. The second thing, which I think is the most important thing, is that I'll just show you guys. Let me see here. So this is a bugs and suggestion tab right here in the Welcome Home Server Discord. So as you can see, we've got just tons and tons of different areas here where people are just making suggestions. And for the most part, you're going to see responses from, you know, both Dungeon Master, from the other players that are on the server, going, you know, I guess giving their opinions or whatever it may be. But for the most part, Dungeon comes in and he's giving his viewpoint on almost every single one of these. Now, does every single one of them get answered? No. You know, and I don't know if that's just because some of them are either repeats, like I've made this suggestion like 4 times, and sometimes it gets deleted, obviously. Now that could just go in because there's a lot of cannon fodder on here that just gets deleted after a while. But most of the time, they're answered, and he either implements it or he doesn't. Keen example of that is right over here. I was making the suggestion that, you know, if people are going to have to farm up these special currencies to use for these like 120 and 130 power scrolls, we have to have a way to efficiently farm the currency that we need to get that. And he added 2 brand new portals here to go to special champs that are low radius champs. That way you can knock these out quickly, efficiently, and farm the marks that you need in order to, you know, go out and buy those 120, 130 power scrolls to beef up your character or characters that you want to get. And I thought that was super important. I brought up my point in a suggestion, and I mean, it was answered and implemented within 48 hours. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case on every single suggestion. Obviously, you know, that's something that was just kind of a thing that happened with that one. But he's very receptive to a lot of different suggestions. So I think that's huge. And nothing about this server so far has seemed pay to win to me. Can you spend money in your donations to get special currency? Yes, that currency is called sovereigns, and those sovereigns can be spent on certain things like tickets to the menagerie, which is where this special champ spawn is. But in the same sense, by spending 250 power scroll credits, you can get a ticket to Cutthroat Island. There are 2 events on Cutthroat Island that one of them will you kill pirates, and it spawns a, you know, kind of a boss guy. He's annoying to kill, but once you kill him, it spawns in some little orcs. You kill them, and then a loot goblin appears, and every loot goblin will drop 100 sovereign notes. It takes 100 sovereign notes to get the menagerie. So realistically, you can get here as easy as doing that, or I think it's once a month. He opens up a free moon gate to the menagerie like on the weekend or something. So it's not like a secret lounge only for people that, you know, just fund this dude, you know, with money. I mean, he opens it up for everybody, It's just something that he uses as kind of like a reward for, you know, being able to donate. And more than anything, I honestly just think he liked building it. The guy's very creative. He likes building things and making things better for players and things like that. This just happened to be something that he did for his donation base. You get 1 sovereign for every $1 that you spend. So I guess if you were to spend, let's say like you gave him like $35, then I think that you get like 3,500 or so. There's something like that, or maybe it's a penny or something. I'd have to look, but yeah, I think it's a penny actually. But you get a tremendous amount of them for, you know, a very small amount. So basically it costs $1 to get into the menagerie is basically what it boils down to. But other than that, I don't know of anything that you can spend money on to give yourself an unfair advantage over another player. It's not PvP, so the advantage really in itself is kind of moot, I guess. But at the end of the day, obviously nobody wants to think that the guy next to you is a credit card warrior, and you know, obviously you've got some whales on every server that are like that, and I haven't noticed anything like that here. I think the biggest thing that you would see is people spending their sovs to get like maybe some decorations or something, or something like that. So it's, all in all, I do understand that people that do want to go collect those decorations may not like that, but there's nothing that's going to give someone an unfair advantage in the game, in my opinion, over somebody else. So a lot of it's just going to be quality of life, and I think that's really cool. So, but yeah, all in all, I would definitely give the server a 9 out of 10. And the reason I'm not giving it the other full 1 is just because I want to see more content being pushed out to further the player base and inviting them, you know, obviously more people into the server, because we are growing exponentially at this point with players from when I first started. So seeing that, and then just being able to handle that growth, and being able to obviously accommodate, you know, this many more players that are coming in with new content, and keeping up with all that, it would definitely push it to a 10. So, but again, that's something that, you know, we have to see. You know, obviously at this point we're already pushing through tier 2. The tier 3 content is already in the works. We've already been alpha testing the tier 3 content. The only thing we haven't seen yet is the tier 3 bosses. So, but yeah, that's it. I mean, I really liked that video. Mags, I thought it was a really good video. I think it was a really good idea to share that, especially since you said it was your first video. This is my first video of you ever showing my face, which I don't know how it looks down there in that thing, but yeah, I think this is good. I think it's a very much easier way to kind of get your ideas out there without typing, you know, huge thing that sometimes unfortunately gets overlooked because the attention span while reading nowadays is very low. So, but all right, guys, well, that was it, and thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do. I've got a really hefty goal this year, and I'm getting there very quickly. So I appreciate it, and you guys have a great day.